All right. So in this next block, the much awaited for block, we have a number of things that have happened this week in like the DEI movement, right? Which has been up until now was a pretty heavy hand on our society. It was rainbow in your churches and all sorts of other stuff that were going on over the past 4 years. Now there's starting to be a little pushback. We find out about Biden's little $10 million experiment to make the trans mice. Hey, it's for their good. What are you, a mice hater? Neil deGrasse Tyson, he didn't get the update in the script. He's still reading from the 2024 script. He went on trigonometry to, defend hundreds of genders, which was pretty funny because his examples are hilarious. I don't know what goes on in Neil deGrasse Tyson land, but maybe he's just got a closet full of dresses over here and a closet full of suits over there. I don't know. We'll see. There was a teacher who was forcing their students to purr, right? Because they got to act like animals. That's a big thing these days, the whole furry thing. And then the unhinged libs cope and seethe clip from Tim. It's like a town hall meeting. And there was what I thought was like, I don't know, a chick with a purple wig. But apparently she's in drag because she's got to tell you a bunch of times that she's in drag. And what they threaten is to make that town, it's in Massachusetts, it's in a neighboring state, to make that town a very unsafe place. So they're like threatening violence. I haven't heard anyone threaten violence against them from like the level of things being done against these programs. It's not against the individuals. It's against the Congress critters who use those individuals as a human shield and take on their agenda and steal money so that those individuals never get the help they need from the money that could be available if you didn't have a bunch of parasites in between and predators and jackals and other scavengers of the world. Vultures. I'll use that one too. So I identify as an individual who has a heart and sees other individuals struggling. I don't want them in more turmoil or strife. However, I can also notice when there's not real turmoil and strife and they're self-inflicting and I have nothing to do with that. So we're going to let that, we'll let it speak for itself. We don't need to play the whole clip. And Colby, I'll give you a prompt when we can cut it out of that. We covered the teacher purring, and I think that covers most of the things coming up in this next media block. And then I'm going to peruse all these AR pictures that LD's dropping in the chat over there because he's still on the road. He's about to go to truck driving school this week, get his commercial driver's license, big rig license on. So I've been thinking about that since Maverick almost had to do it in Top Gun back in 1984. So truck driver school. Hey, Mav, you got that number? I think Truckmaster School. I think we might need that. That's what Goose said. Anyway, let's go into this block and then we'll learn more about truck driver school later.
I hope you're all ready for this one. You want to know where your money's going? How about $10 million in taxpayer funds spent creating transgender animals? Shout out to Rep. Nancy Mace. I know a lot of people give her a lot of flack because she's done not so good in the past. People have claimed she was pro-trans. She even supported Bannon going to jail. I'm going to tell you this, my friends. I know there's a lot of people I deeply respect that say no forgiveness. You know, Benny Johnson has been saying now's the time to crush our enemies and things like this. Well, that ain't me. And for better or for worse, now's the time to dominate. And crush our enemies sounds fun. And it might feel good. I want to win. Nancy Mace has, in the past year or so, done tremendous good things. And so I respect criticism of Rep. Nancy Mace, absolutely, as you should. And I think from that criticism, she's turned around and has now begun calling out bad things, exposing these wastes of taxpayer funds, and I'm here for it. Take a look at this. They were giving hormone therapies to mice, and it cost you $10 million. Now, here's what I love about this. The Democrats try to come out and say things like $10 million is microscopic in the grand scheme of how big this budget is. We're talking billions, trillions. And I'm just like, okay, give me $10 million. How about this? If you are a veteran and you are, come on, you want to play games, Democrats? If you're a veteran or first responder who dies or is maimed in the line of duty, you get $10 million. How about that? I think ultimately the problem is there are evil people who would probably, for $10 million, maim themselves. I know there are bad people out there that would exploit the system. I'm just saying, If you came to me and said, hey, we got $10 million, we can give it to mice to make them transgender, or that one veteran over there who lost his leg could have $10 million, ain't no doubt about it. You and I know exactly where that money is going. Instead, I constantly hear about the VA is underfunded, how our veterans need these charities to take care of them, and that they're giving $10 million to these research companies for garbage like this. Okay, I will defend this program a little bit. I understand the idea of testing hormones on animals to see what it does to them. Fine. But if we're still at the point where we're testing these mice, why are they giving it to children? Here's a story from Fox News. Before we jump into it, my friends, make sure you go to castbrew.com and pick up a delicious cup of Cast Brew coffee. It's the best coffee you will ever have. It's about time, I think, for a new promo code. It was behind the scenes, hang out with our guests, super chill podcast. Literally just hanging out and talking, some of them a bit more serious than others. Here's a story from Fox News. Last year, $10 million in taxpayer money was spent creating transgender animals. According to the White Coast Waste Project, Rep. Nancy Mace laid out the misuse of taxpayer money funding gender-affirming care for... That's just so hard. Gender-affirming care for animals during opening remarks at a subcommittee hearing Thursday. The hearing, transgender lab rats and poisoned puppies, oversight of taxpayer-funded animal cruelty. Last year, the White Coat Waste Project exposed more than $10 million in taxpayer funds that were spent creating transgender mice, rats, and monkeys, May said. These DEI grants funded painful and deadly transgender experiments that forced lab animals to undergo invasive surgeries and hormone therapies at universities across the country. Now, I just got to tell you, if the left is arguing that people should get the care they want because, gender dysphoria is life-threatening, what about these animals? You think the monkey guy wants to be a monkey girl by force through surgery? He's not even a monkey girl, just a surgically altered monkey. Jeez. Mace took aim at the Biden-Harris administration's radical policy agenda for allowing taxpayer dollars to fund surgically mutated animal genitals. The Biden-Harris administration spent $2.5 million to study the fertility of transgender mice. The Biden-Harris administration was so eager to propagate their radical gender ideology across all facets of American society that they were surgically mutating animal genitals. Taxpayer money went to that. You spent so much time wondering if you could, you never stopped to ask if you should. I don't know where that quote is. Is it Jurassic Park? Never stopped to ask if you should. What's that? If we should. Yeah, Jurassic Park. Your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not you could, they never stopped to think if they should. Ian Malcolm from Jurassic Park, 1993. What a great quote. Can we make a mouse transgender? Let's do it. How about no? How about we just, I don't know, use that money to fix a bridge or something? The U.S. government spends in excess of $20 billion a year conducting experiments on animals, May said. We spent over $1 million to find out if female rats receiving testosterone therapy were more likely to overdose on a date rape drug. What? That's what your taxpayer dollars were being spent on. Mace thanked White Coat Waste Project for its research. Justin Goodman, a White Coat Waste Project executive, Dr. Paul A. Locke, a professor at Johns Hopkins, and they go to mention a lot of people. Beagles who were rescued from an NIH supplier were in the audience as a reminder of the real cost of animal experimentation. May said in 2022, May stopped a $1.8 million drug test experiment on beagle puppies. Today, most of the 27 NIH institutes and centers conduct or support animal testing, as does the FDA, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Department for Veterans Affairs, DOD, and countless agencies. I hope today's conversation can similarly prevent taxpayer dollars from needlessly funding animal experimentation. I want to throw it back to Taylor Swift. Why was she getting booed? I don't know. Here's the Daily Beast. Nancy Mace drags animals into her latest transgender attack. Okay, look, if you're trying to defend trans people and Nancy Mace is saying we shouldn't spend $10 million on making transgender rats, you are just pissing everybody off. Like no one is going to agree with you on this one. You go anywhere in the country and ask, should we allocate $10 million of taxpayer funding to force animals to be transgender? People are going to be like, no. Give me the $10 million. Seriously. I would rather, honestly, they just spend $10 million in, I don't know, like copper and put a giant block in the middle of New York. Just like, there you go. You know the bean in Chicago? That. Instead of whatever it is they're doing. At least I can look at it. Here's what Daily Beast said. Rep. Nancy Mace tested out her latest attack on trans people on Fox News. In the interview, Mace claimed that she uncovered a $10 million federal program for making animals trans. This information is being exposed to the American people, and I'm so grateful for it. And you have to ask yourself, why are all these Democrats having such a meltdown over exposing the waste, fraud, and abuse within these government programs? Indeed. Mace also heaped praise on Doge director Elon Musk and slammed Maxine Waters. She says, if this was reversed and a male conservative congressman was yelling in the face of a female security guard during the Democrat administration, what do you think this reaction would be? Asked Ingram. Mace replied, there would be outrage by everyone in the leftist media. I agree. I'm going to say this, too, because she was talking about if the roles were reversed. A lot of people are ragging on Nancy Mace because she's the first female to graduate from the Citadel Military Academy, I believe it is. And there's a bunch of guys being like, you're a hypocrite for saying men shouldn't be in women's spaces, but you, a woman, went into a man's space. And I'm going to go ahead and say that's a leftist argument. I reject that. And now immediately people are like, what do you mean it's a leftist argument? Tim, you can't say that. The leftist argument that men and women are the same. And so right now, the left argues because they're the same, why not share spaces? The right argument is that men and women are different. So let's play this out. Does any guy care if, like, Blair White goes into a men's room? No. You know why? Because men and women are different. Women care if males and trans women go into a women's bathroom. Men don't seem to care. Does anybody care if a trans woman wants to play on the men's team? That's like a biological male who wants to be a woman. No, because men are different. So, excuse me, here's the issue I see. A male military academy, I don't really care if a woman graduates from there because women are not a physical threat to men. They're just, to a certain degree, but very, very less likely. So for guys, you can make the argument that you want a male space because you want to be able to make male jokes and you don't want to offend women or all that. And so in that regard, I say, if a woman enters a male space, so long as she understands dudes are going to do dude stuff, okay. There's no excuse for like guys to break the law or anything. That's not what I'm talking about. But if Nancy Mace joining the Citadel resulted in like new policies that restricted what men can do, what they can joke about, we got a problem there, right? Because then you are invading a male space. My point is this. If a woman goes to a male space and they don't change any of the rules or standards, I don't care. Women are not a threat to guys, and guys don't care that women are there largely. Some might because they're like, I don't feel comfortable making dude jokes around a woman. I get that. I do. I respect that. But the principal issue is with bathrooms is that you're getting like, not all trans people, but there have been instances where there's one famous individual, and it's not only one. There was one instance where a guy was taking pictures of little girls. There was one instance where a guy was literally not trans. He was exposing himself, and they didn't take action because they were scared they would get sued because he may be trans. But this was literally a guy in California who was a predator exposing himself to little girls, and they were like, he's allowed to be in there. So anyway, I digress. My point was simply like, men and women are different, and guys tolerate a lot more because they're not threatened largely by women. As for the wasting of taxpayer funds, there's no reason for Democrats to defend that. I'm going to wrap it up there. Smash that like button, share the show with everyone. You know, we got more segments coming up for you. Stick around, and I will see you all shortly.
Almost 700,000 views. Neil deGrasse Tyson's 5-minute takedown of right-wing hosts.
Why do you care? What business is it of yours to require that I fulfill your inability to think of gender on a spectrum?
Neil deGrasse Tyson went on the Trigonometry podcast.
The people who watch this YouTube channel are leaving comments claiming he's an intellectual pile driver on that boy, an intellectual titan. It's remarkable how we can look at the same thing and take completely different things away from it.
Because when we wake up in the morning, we exaggerate whatever feature we want to portray the gender of our choice.
I disagree with that because when I wake up in the morning, I'm not thinking about what do I need to do in order to project this gender today. Interesting start.
Today, I feel 80% female. 20% male. I'm gonna put on makeup. I'm gonna do that. Tomorrow I might feel 80% male. I'll remove the makeup and I'll wear a muscle shirt.
You viewing this video, when you wake up in the morning, do you think like that? If you're a woman, you don't put on makeup because you're feeling less female today? Or is it, who am I going to see today? What am I doing today? Should I wear makeup?
Who you decide is male and female in the street is a construct of style and trends and what the beauty industrial complex wants you to see.
So now this is a result of the beauty industrial complex. It's just a game played for money.
They'll wear a skirt, but maybe have a beard, or they'll mix and match that in whatever way
Neil,
you want.
sorry.
Hold on. Wait, I'm almost done. So,
Okay.
if a person using the tools of the beauty industrial complex wants to mix and match this,
Yeah.
and they are expressing their freedom in a free country to do so, why is your job to tell them not to?
Okay.
That's my
Here we go.
only point.
That's usually where these arguments go. It's like, why do you care? You shouldn't care because when you're in a bathroom, it's not like you're being exposed to anything. You can't see anything. That doesn't address at all the changing room. And it's also a larger discussion because this can be applied in so many different cases.
First of all, I don't know a single person, and we've talked to trans people on the show. We have trans employees at Trigonometry. We've spoken to all sorts of people about this issue. I do not know a single person who wants to prevent people from dressing how they want or behaving how they want or choosing any name that they want.
If you want to put on a dress and you have a beard and you're a guy, fine. That's not the argument here at all. But Neil deGrasse Tyson continues to obsess upon that.
Problem is,
so you don't, but you know such people are out there.
I'm sure such people exist in the same way that there are people who believe that the earth is flat and so on.
There are people that exist like that. Of course, the extremes exist.
The reason the conversations become an issue is that we assign and allow certain privileges to people based on their sex. If you are female, you get to go to places that only other females are in.
He articulates this very well.
In other words, we carve out certain areas where your sex matters tremendously, even though we may respect your right everywhere else to believe that you are whatever you are, to dress however you are, etc.
And that is the heart of the issue. That's the real argument here. And Neil deGrasse Tyson is just dancing around that.
So your claim that today you woke up and put lipstick on and grew your hair out long and tweezed out your mustache and whatever, and therefore you are female, has an impact on other people in certain contexts in which that is a problem.
You gave only two contexts. Do you have others?
There are so many potential examples of how this could impact women and men, and how it's just simply the potential, the capacity that is here for unfair treatment is immense.
It is essential, people would argue, to protect women from unfair competition and from various risks for which female-only spaces already exist. That's why people are having this conversation.
Okay.
It's not out of bigotry.
Do you have more than those two examples? And
I'm not sure that's entirely true, that it's not out of bigotry. I think there's an enormous amount of bigotry involved in the conversation.
Each of those in turn.
That's the response that this YouTuber gives, Progressive Perspective gives. Well, I think there's a lot of bigotry involved in this conversation. Like, how do you measure that though, man? Like, can you contend with the logic at all?
So, but you don't seem to have a third example. So, and even if you do, we presume that would be a very distant third compared to those two cases. All right.
No, there's a third one I can give you very easily in this country.
What about prisons? Men who identify as women, should they be housed in women's prisons?
For politics, we have female-only shortlists for positions in Parliament. Therefore,
I didn't know about that. That's interesting.
This is larger than just the bathrooms or the changing rooms. This changes the very meaning of being a woman. It, by definition, affects women's rights.
Why were women underrepresented to begin with? What kind of bias exists within Parliament or among the voters, maybe even the female voters, that prevented the representation from being there in the first place?
Here, the trigonometry guys Yeah, I could see, like, you are setting yourself up around this equity argument.
That's a whole other social question that maybe can and should be answered at a deeper level than a quota coming in after the fact.
So Neil deGrasse Tyson just made an argument against equity. Don't impose quotas at the end upon the result. Allow equal opportunity, leave people to their own devices, and allow them to organize themselves accordingly as they will.
Here in Manhattan, where I live, practically all bathrooms are either multi-gender or solo bathrooms, so only one person at a time, or you walk into a space and there's stalls that are closed off, but then you exit the stall and you come to a communal sink. Okay?
Yes.
So it's a solvable problem.
That's the only logical argument you can make, is to say, well, there can't really be any shared women in one space, whether it's a spa or whatever. It's like, no, that you're going to have to box them in, ironically, in their own little miniature changing rooms.
I think that Neil deGrasse Tyson's point is you can try and keep everybody in the boxes that they're in, or you can look for ways to solve emerging problems, right? And the bathroom example is one of those. Well, the infrastructure. Yeah, sure. It's going to involve some change.
What you want to be progress can't override what's important to anyone else.
So I'm wondering whether the future of those sports is you don't contest gender with gender, you contest hormone ratios.
There are other differences between men and women just in hormonal levels.
Given what we know about human physiology. So why not rise to that occasion and solve it rather than take your older view of the world and force modern emergent conduct of people to fit that?
His argument is that we need to restructure the fabric of reality to fit new thinking that thinks all of this is malleable.
It does scratch how gendered our society is. And you could say, well, that's because there's men and women, and that's just the way things are. But I get really skeptical when that's just the way things are argument comes up.
I encounter arguments such as this. It says, well, there's no such thing as anything beyond the reach of man. There's no such thing as reality itself. Things are never just the way they are. It's never beyond our reach.
That problem. So
but
you don't
there
even
are
have to
women
have that question.
whose opportunities are being curtailed today because they are being forced to compete, whether in sports or elsewhere, against people who have some kind of advantage over.
We're in a transitional period, so we have to figure that out. But the way to figure out things that require solutions to progressive change is not to regress it to how things once were. If that were the case, I would still be drinking from a segregated water fountain.
And then he starts comparing the biological differences between men and women to segregated water fountains, which is just a logical leap.
So maybe we need some new stuff, or we need to put everything back in the box and we need to protect the women and maintain the status quo, which just doesn't feel very progressive.
The progress does come at the expense of women and what is fair to them. That's a real problem.
Like literally, let's make progress. We need to progress.
All the rage is Doge right now, and the amount of people who are absolutely melting down about Doge is actually curious to me. I would have thought that regardless of, your particular political take or political aisle, you would agree with cutting government spending. It's so weird to me, unless you're an actual communist, right? I don't really understand. Like, Republicans obviously would be good with government cuts. Libertarians would be good with cuts. Democrats should be good with cuts. Yet they're marching in the streets, melting down, angry, all this kind of stuff. And this particular one is bonkers. Apparently, Doge had just terminated a $2.3 million contract for a ridiculous VR training course that taught U.S. soldiers how to have difficult conversations about DEI. China is laughing, and they're laughing bigly. Here's a little clip.
Is an opportunity to have a difficult conversation when it comes to DEIA. There is an avatar, and behind that avatar, there is a trained individual who is going to have the conversation. He or she will be able to either elevate the difficulty of the conversation or back down and understand. The time that we're living in is we have conversations that are difficult, specifically dealing with people or differences of opinions. It's important for us as individuals and leaders and service members to have these conversations.
Wait till you see it. I mean, this is what our military, it started with letting women in, right? Am I right, fellas? Now we have all these pictures of, like, you know, we had General Miley talking about, oh, you know, white rage. We got the military person that likes to dress up like a dog. We have, you know, LGBTQ people in the military, trans people in the military. I mean, is it any surprise that the military has a video game on how to deal with DEI and that we spent millions of dollars on it?
And allow us to practice having these conversations that are often very difficult to have. This is
why would DEI have, why would talk, I mean, is it because they're making fun of you?
This is for airmen, this is for guardians, this is for civilians of all ranks enlisted and officer. It's an opportunity to have a...
Wait, where's the, I thought they showed a picture of it. There. So they have this, like, pencil neck guy, and it's like a, you know, 1920s, probably early 2000s VR software. I mean, this is bonkers. Doge has terminated a multi-million-dollar virtual reality project that taught soldiers how to have difficult conversations, says the Daily Mail. The Air Force and Space Force were doling out millions of dollars for a training program not to better enhance soldiers' fighting capability, but to help grow inclusive-minded leaders. I mean, is anybody surprised by this? Is anybody surprised by this? Why did they use Sneeko for the model? The Air Force's Education Division and Training Command handed out a staggering $2.3 million contract to create a virtual reality experience where soldiers would deal with an avatar that would help them speak and act in a DEI-friendly way. This is literal re-education, right? It was a priority for the military officers under President Joe Biden to address unconscious bias in the military ranks and create more inclusive force, according to the White House memo. The Air Force's Air Education and Training Command handed out a $2.3 million contract to create this program so they can interact in a DEI-friendly way. The program allows participants to have a conversation that are both realistic and difficult. An Air Force soldier wrote alongside a video testimonial. It used a virtual avatar that are controlled by trained actors.
The live program is an opportunity to have a difficult conversation.
Oh, is this the same video?
When it comes to DEIA. There is an avatar, and behind that avatar, there is a trained individual who is going to have the conversation. He or she will be able to either elevate the difficulty of the conversation or back down and understand. The time that we're living in is...
What is the point of the avatar? Why couldn't you just talk to that person? You're creating the avatar. Well, if the avatar has to be manually operated by another person. This doesn't even increase capabilities. It doesn't even add any economies of scale. If it's a one-to-one for a therapist pushing DEI, why aren't they just meeting with that person? Well, I don't even understand it.
We have conversations that are difficult, specifically dealing with people or differences of opinions. It's important for us as individuals and leaders and service members to have these conversations and allow us to practice having these conversations that are often very difficult to have. This is for airmen, this is for guardians, this is for civilians of all ranks enlisted and officer.
I mean, this is for civilians. I don't want to pay for that. I have less than zero interest in willingly participating in brainwashing. DOJ just canceled the $2.3 million contract with Air Force University for the Profession of Arms Center of Excellence Unconscious Bias Mixed Reality Service. A senior White House official revealed. The cancellation of the $2.3 million contract was exclusively previewed on Monday. According to a press release on the program, Leading Inclusivity Virtual Experience Program and Virtual Reality to challenge individuals to engage in difficult diversity, equity and inclusion, and accessibility conversations. As soldiers interacted with this DEI avatar, a room full of their colleagues would watch as a participant navigated, quote, difficult conversations.
Good.
What difficult conversation?
Okay. So you have to be pretty imaginative to come up with that project in the first place because, you know, it's like stacking avatar on top of avatar on top of avatar, right? You've already got someone who is presenting themselves different as maybe they were at some point. And then you're stacking a virtual reality avatar. I think the thing that pisses me off the most is how crude the technology is. It's like watching, there was a Michael Douglas movie in the 90s about like the technology in VR world. And it was called Disclosure. It was a Michael Crichton book. It was actually a really good movie. But like the VR they're using in that system looks like the thing out of Disclosure from like 1994 with Michael Douglas. It's not something that you would pay millions and millions of dollars for. First off, to solve their problem, there's this thing called Zoom or Skype or any number of other places where many people can meet and they can listen to two people talk, which is what he just described, right? What is the need to have an artificial virtual reality avatar of a person who already has a reality avatar with an avatar stacked on top of it? I just don't see what problem are they fixing that couldn't be fixed for basically free. So that's pretty creative. It's just creativity in the wrong direction, in my opinion. And it's not really helpful to the individuals, and it's not helpful to the organizations that are implementing those policies.
Well, they just need an entity to say the words that they need it to say, right? That's just like the same, like the Bill Burr or the Neil deGrasse Tyson phenomenon. It's like, oh, here's an avatar that we can just feed our messaging through and deliver it to the audience that we need to hear this message, right? So they're just cutting out the middleman of having an influencer or some famous person that they've co-opted to deliver that message. Like we'll just have the AR do it or VR do it. It's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah. So the DEI will continue to build that out. There's a couple more clips on that. The next clip coming up is from Jameson's Travels. So he's like a former military guy, and we've played a couple of his clips in the past. His comment, first off, the guy who has to he get his hair cut. It's just, that's not an example of what you need protecting a country. And you don't have context for it, but you'll see the kid in a minute. And again, do I fault him? He grew up in an environment that soaked him in soy milk and a whole bunch of non-manly type of things. So the fact that, these soldiers are there just to get the GI Bill and to get, housing programs and other things, they're not really to defend the country type of people. That also is a situation that needs to be dealt with. I guess the thing that I'm surprised at over the past couple of weeks is there are things that I never thought I'd see in my lifetime, like USAID just getting uprooted. Never thought we would get that far. Are they doing these things to just cover up their end game of technotronic, cybernetic, control for everybody? Because Elon seems to be taking people down that road pretty hard, right? I don't know. It remains to be seen, but I'm going to be optimistic, and I'm going to continue to count those wins, but stay vigilant because there's real work to be done, and there's real angles not being talked about in a lot of these cases, especially once we get to the JFK records disclosures and Bibi's girl in charge of releasing the documents on not Israel. I'm just going to make a prediction. I bet there's not a whole lot on Israel in any of these documents that are about to be forthcoming on RFK, MLK, JFK, or any of these 9/11, these types of things. And I do want to fact check the fact. I posted on Twitter earlier today. It was from Miko Paled's sister who had posted it, but it was pertaining to the Mossad director in 1963 on November 22nd wasn't in Israel that day. He happened to be in Dallas, where another famous world leader was that day. And it's worth mentioning the name of the Mossad director, because his name is a known name. He was an Israeli prime minister named Itzhak Rabin. He was also assassinated in 1995. And, wait for it, Itzhak Rabin's assassination is predicted in the Bible code. And Michael Drosnin from the New York Times took the Bible code saying Rabin's going to be assassinated to the Israelis. And they're like, don't worry about it. We don't believe in the Bible code. So I don't know how all that works. I know there's a lot of skepticism, but Drosnin, he just passed away a couple years ago. He spent a lot of time trying to run that stuff down. And when you are decoding something and it's like this guy's going to be assassinated and you can go tell him before it happens, and then it happens anyway, I don't know, man. That was a thing, but that's 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Jesus Christ, I'm old.
That's so crazy that you brought that book up as a reference, because I read that book. Like my best friend's mom when I was a kid had it. It's like, you guys should read this book. So I read it when I was like, I don't know, 10 or something like that. No, the Bible Code.
Oh, the Bible Code.
There's a book called The Bible Code, and it talks about the assassination of Yitzhak Rabin. And I was like, what? And so I've always known that name in correlation with that, with the book. And so, yeah. I don't know if that's the book you were referencing, but there's a book called
that's the Bible Code. That's Bible Code. New York Times bestseller.
Okay.
And there was a guy from the NSA, Harold Gantz, who was a cryptographer who was into it. Like, he was skeptical, but then he found like there was something to the equidistant letter sequences. And then there's people who could say you'll find the same thing in Moby Dick. And I say maybe the quantum intelligence put it everywhere, waiting for humans to find it.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
How else do things get there? I mean, just a quick tangent. The first 5 books of the Old Testament, which is like the Pentateuch or the Torah, they have different names for it, but it's basically 305,804 characters, no vowels, no spaces. It's very much like a computer code, and it has been maintained meticulously for thousands of years with very little entropy in the message, as opposed to the telephone game, which definitely has gone on with the Christian Bible. We could have a whole podcast about that. How many versions and which books do we vote on to keep after Constantine? And, it's not a very clean and entropy-free signal that we have there. So those things do merit some incredulity and then looking it up and testing it out, man. You can get the software and search equidistant letter sequences in any digital book that's out there. I think you should do it in Tragedy and Hope. Go play. Play. All right, so let's get through the rest of this DEI shenanigans. We have purple hair drag person. That's what I'll call them. Purple hair drag person right after the red haired complaining person. And that is before the insane woke teacher making people purr for treats in their class. That'll about cover it. And then we could switch to other news. But these are things that went on this past week in Grand Theft World history. And some people are coping harder than others. And I just, I wish them well. Let's get to it. It's Jameson's Travels.
The military be so silly with their rules, like... Hey y'all, so today I'm gonna make a video showing how I cope with gender dysphoria while in uniform. And this scary ass drill sergeant looking guy, he came up to me and he was like, "What is your major malfunction?" Hey, So,
well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to your next company commander, Captain Ginger. Locked on. I know Trump's in office. It's taken more than 4 years to root this shit out. Let's take a gander at future leadership coming to an army near you. Stand by.
I would just like to announce that I did not join the military to serve my country. I joined the military to get a VA home loan, the GI Bill, and student loan forgiveness. Right. That's it.
I'm Major Rachel Jones, and what Pride means to me is celebrating that diversity is our strength as a nation and as an army.
I am compelled to consider a different candidate and perhaps less qualified.
Of course, it's always less qualified. I know Pete Hegseth came out and said Army recruiting numbers are better than ever the last 15 years, right? Better than ever. But think about this. We've got decades, at least since Obama, decade, right, of leadership at battalion levels that are, can we use the word woke? General Miley doesn't know what woke is, but whatever you want to call it, DEI hires. And you just heard from the colonel saying, I don't pick the best candidate. Hell no, man. I want the most diverse candidate. We're going to get to Captain Ginger here. Stand by.
Often, I hear leaders talk about providing everyone with dignity and respect like it's an aspirational goal.
Is the U.S. military too woke? No, not at all. I'm not even sure what that word truly means, but I would tell you that the military I see is a military that's exceptionally strong.
okay, so I just went in the military building. These bitches.
Let me get this right. So General Dipshit doesn't know what woke means. No idea. Think they're gonna bring him up on charges, bring him back in? Put that in the comments immediately. So we got an ROTC candidate, right? The best to be the leadership in the U.S. Army. You may say, bro, it's ROTC. Angry cops came in and said, what's the big deal? Person got a haircut. But this is the leadership right here. Future leadership for your son or daughter to go in to be cannon fodder. This is what you get.
Just told me to go in this building, and they were like, okay, get your dental stuff done. And the thing opens at 8, and so I showed up like an hour early. And this scary ass drill sergeant looking guy, he came up to me and he was like, go get a fucking haircut. Don't come back in this fucking building until you get a haircut. I was like, okay, yes, sir. And he grabbed this part of my uniform and was like, when you're in this uniform, you need to abide by the standards.
I have an awesome deal for you guys. Response Attack Right are offering what they claim to be military-grade night vision at an incredible price today. Say what I use it for? Looking at these guys at night looking for calves. Similar device usually sell for thousands of dollars. However, they already...
Here's the thing. You may not like the haircut thing. You may think it's irrelevant. But the fine print says, wear the fucking haircut, right? Cut the hair. Marine Corps, once a week. It's just the way it is. You may not like it, you get out, right? But if you're ROTC, taking that free scholarship, right? That good money, going to dental, you got to play along, right? It used to just be you say, I don't want the haircut, and you said you're a woman. And you don't get deployed. Did that video here. No PT standards, no deployments, same promotion pool. You know, we'll get to more of this, but this won't be rooted out in 4 years. We're on the right track, it appears. I'm not sure about the Gaza thing. What do you think about the Gaza thing? You just heard that.
AR 670-1. I was like, yes, sir. He was like, go get a haircut right now and don't come back in this building until you get a haircut. I was like, okay. So I am on my way to get a haircut because that was scary as fuck. So if I look like a fucking army rat when I get... Guys, I look like I'm about to go to fucking war. Yeah. And yeah.
Here's the problem. I saw a podcast, 2 guys, SF bros, saying, what if the ran, who cares what you do in your bedroom, right? And that's a good point. I don't care what you do in your bedroom. The problem is it doesn't stop at the bedroom. You get this kind of shit. You got something wrong in the cabeza, right? I'm not saying they would find people. Don't get me wrong. But if you think you're someone you're not, you maybe have something wrong. I heard the same guy say, what do you do with them? Well, shit, when I was in 93, Bill Clinton comes in. People who had asthma waivers, officers, member company commander, gone. So we've done it before. It's precedented. It's not unprecedented. Let me say that. Let people go who maybe had a unique characteristic, we'll call it. Let me know what you think. If you're doing the job, but it doesn't seem like a lot of these folks are doing the job.
And that's all. I ate.
Hey y'all, my name is Private Johnson. I'm a soldier of trans experience in the United States Army. Today is my first day of starting HRT, so without further ado, My friend got me these gumball machines to take my hormones with, and while I think they're a cute idea, they're really inconvenient, but it's still really cute, so I'm gonna use it for this video.
Remember this now. In San Antonio, there's a special part of the DoD that's just for transmissions. Just for changing yourself. You enlist for 4 years, you don't get deployed, you're in MOS, you get promoted, all these things, no PT standards. And I've heard other podcasts say, I brought about Andy Stone. He thought that 50% of vets were basically people who had disability, were frauds. 47, whatever his number was. These people, for sure, are going to come out and said, I was SA'd, I was harassed, I've got something wrong with me, right? You're not coming in with all the things lined up perfect when you let somebody in of this fashion nature, we'll call it, right? Are you? Would you say that's the best person for the candidate? Now, if you need people, you need candidate fodder, I guess is what you get, but the problem is, folks like this are not deploying. I'll see if I can find the video, link to it. DoD memo, it's clear.
This is spirolactone to block the male hormones. Right. This is estradiol to deliver the female hormones.
Right.
And there you have it, folks. 10 months waiting for this paperwork from the Army, and I am finally starting my journey.
A lot of these people are joining up just for this right here. Just for the health care to get to their special place in life. These folks want the health care they can't get elsewhere that you and I are paying for. And they're not combat effective. They're not support effective. They're not either doing a few of the roles, like on the ground or supporting that effort, because they're not deployable. Most of them are going through these transitions a long, long time, right?
A few months. If you are interested in seeing the life of an active duty trans soldier, please like this video and follow for more.
The military be so silly with their rules. Like, why did I just get in trouble for having a pink lunchbox? And then I got in trouble for wearing lip gloss. Yeah. And God forbid I wear some mascara. Oh, they be so mad. God forbid.
It's kind of in the fine print, isn't it? Like if you're a guy, and I don't know how they determine who's a guy and a girl anymore in the military, but let's just say you're a guy in this example. You just don't wear lipstick, right? Do they get in trouble for the pink lunchbox? I don't know. You're going to get picked on, of course, right? You know how it is. Like say you're the guy, you're the Marine Corps. You hook up the fat chick at night. Your boy's going to pick on you, right? That's just the way it goes. But now if you pick on this person, guess what happens? You're getting burned. You're getting written up. I don't even know what that means. So do you think Trump's going to change it? Can you change it? Remember, 12 of the last 16 years, we had Obama and Biden. Obama did this. You're not going to unscrew this in 4 years. Can you make it better? Will it change back over to where it was under Biden and the next administration if a Democrat wins? Absolutely. It'll change harder. But we've got a bunch of people like that RTC kid, and you saw the lieutenant colonel and the colonel saying, hey, diversity is our greatest strength. We don't care if they're good. We just care if they're short and got a special characteristic. That's a problem, my friends. We're not going to fuck this.
So they confirmed RFK Jr. Kash Patel has made it out of the Senate Judiciary Committee on his way to get confirmed as well. And with all this winning, just wanted to check in on our friends over on the left, the liberals, to see how they were doing. And not well, as it were. Not well indeed. And because I had to listen to this, you have to listen to it too. But don't worry, you're going to laugh. Because while we watch them lose their minds over literally everything, we get to sit back and enjoy a nice, delicious grapefruit spindrift as we revel in their, insanity.
Fuck you, fuck your Bible, and fuck Elon Musk and that weird little human shield he carries around with him. That thing has never heard the word no. Let's face it, that little booger flicking fucker sitting there with the President of the United States in the Oval Office holding a press conference. Boy, didn't he just put it right in our faces what's what yesterday. So any idea that you had that what wasn't happening isn't happening is off the table. That motherfucker's in charge. He's holding press conferences from the Oval Office with this rotten little bastard child who has never, ever once heard the word fucking no. So let's just call that spade what it is. And look, you Bible-beaten bastard motherfuckers, come to grips with this. I went through Catholic schools. I read the Bible. I read the book of Revelations. If you believe in all that shit, you Bible-thumping rat bastards, you must believe that we are in the end of times. And you need to know the Antichrist is here. The only problem is there's too many fucking fuckers to pick. Who the fuck is it? There's so many we could be picking from. Is it that rat bastard Elon Musk? Is it the rat bastard Donald Trump? Is it the rat bastard Barron? Who the fuck is what's up with that thing? Because you look at that Melania motherfuck, whatever the fuck her crazy ass name is. I fucking hate Christmas. I hate with
Not
the
well.
red shit all over the fucking White. What the fuck was that anyway? We put this shit back in the White House. I'm beside myself. You know, I was floating around a couple of months in a fucking pool, looking at the clouds. Ooh, look, an octopus chasing a Volkswagen. I was fucking happy. I was fucking motherfucking happy. Now, I've got to walk around wondering who the fucking Antichrist is. You rat bastard Bible thumping fuckers, you put us here. You motherfuckers put us here. Fuck you. Fuck your Bible.
Oh, man, I'm having a good time. How you guys doing? The first thing I thought when I saw that was like, yo, did she practice that? Do you think she wrote that down? I don't think so, which I guess is kind of a compliment. Because I kind of imagine that if she did write it down, she wouldn't have said rat bastard 83 times. But I do appreciate all the swearing. My friends, you know, as I scroll the internet to explore the current state of things, I am beset on all sides by videos of victory. You know what I mean? Like Donald Trump, Doge, Trump securing the border, Pete Hegseth getting wokeness out of the military, recruitment is way up after Trump won. Tulsi Gabbard gets confirmed as DNI. RFK Jr. was just confirmed. Kash Patel on his way to get confirmed. And I'm sitting here just sipping this soda being like, man, it's pretty good. But I have to wonder how our friends on the left are doing. And then I watch this. And I got to be honest, when I watch these videos, it's actually more winning. The outright losing of their minds. They, to be fair, I don't think their minds were with them to begin with. They must have lost them a long time ago. But these people are unhinged. Look, that lady, it's performative. Like, before I jump to the next one, just this lady saying all this crazy nonsense, and I don't think she blinks once.
In the Oval Office with this rotten little bastard child who has never, ever once heard.
Okay, I guess technically that was blinking. She closed her eyes. But why is she yelling at the dude's kid? You know, none of this is reasonable. But I would say for this lady, she really doesn't care about any of this. It's performative. And what works on the internet these days, I guess for the right and the majority of the population that voted for Donald Trump, is authenticity, we call it. So I don't script any of this stuff. I pull up things and then I press record and I start talking about it. But these people are largely performing. That's why often they'll know what they're saying is false, or it comes off like some kind of, I don't know, spoken word poem with lots of swears in it. She doesn't actually know or care about what's going on. She doesn't care about what the future of this country is going to be. She doesn't care about Lake and Riley, the Lake and Riley Act, what any of this means. She said literally that she was sitting there floating in a pool happy. She doesn't actually know or care what's going on. So why make a video like this? It's tribal performative garbage. And so for me, it's all just victory. They want to come out and they want to make this stuff. They're unhinged. They are ignorant. And then it gets better or worse, however you want to phrase it.
I need the city to protect me because the federal government won't. And if you think you're afraid of Trump, you should see how afraid of Trump I am.
Why are you afraid of Trump?
Please?
Yes,
I'm sorry. Let's go again.
To protect me because the federal government won't. And if you think you're afraid of Trump, you should see how afraid of Trump I am.
Can you wrap up, please?
Yeah, can you wrap up, please? Ma'am, I can clearly see you're afraid of Trump. Is Trump in the room with you now? I got to tell you, Donald Trump has done nothing to these people at all, and they're absolutely losing their minds. So this video is the city of Worcester, I don't know how you pronounce it. Everybody pronounces it different. And they've declared themselves, I believe it's a transgender, a sanctuary city for transgender and gender diverse people, which literally means nothing. There's no like Trump brown shirts marching around to arrest trans people. Like the worst that happened is they said on your passport, if you're male, you have to put male. Why do you have to do that? Because the passport is for treaties and free movement with other countries. So they have laws and regulations too. How silly.
Yes, I can. If you say that you're afraid of Trump and that's why you don't want the city to be a safe space for trans people, you better prepare for trans people to make this a very unsafe space.
Oh, so let me get this straight. what that woman was saying is that they're threatening us with physical violence unless we cave to their demands. I would call that terrorism.
Shaking right now. I don't want to be here.
Wait.
Better prepare for
What did they say? I'm
trans
shaking?
people to make this a very unsafe space.
I'm shaking right now. I don't want to be here.
Then leave.
I'm sorry. Am I taking too long pleading for my life?
Oh, please.
You remembered how many children I have and that 2 of them are trans.
That's strange.
I speak as both the B and the T in the LGBT.
I'm multiply disabled. I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a connective tissue disorder that causes me immense physical pain.
Well, I feel bad for her for that.
I'm on the autism spectrum, and I have narcolepsy, and I couldn't drive myself here, so I had to hide from my driver that I was in drag, which is not an easy thing to do in drag.
I do not want to be here.
Wait, hold on. Is that a guy? I mean, that sounds like a woman. You know, I should say female, I guess. I'm not trying to be a dick. I do feel bad. Look, I have empathy. If she's got a connective tissue disorder, that sucks. You know what I mean? But my issue, you guys, is that you're unreasonable. We are trying to accommodate people and be nice, but this is unreasonable.
Which is not an easy thing to do in drag.
I do not want to be here. It's my day off. I do not want to be in your DMs. I do not want to be in your email inboxes. I do not want my creativity writing diss tracks like Kendrick. I don't want to spend an hour applying glitter on my face so that you will hear and see me.
Well, why did you do it then? Guys, I have this business ethos. If you don't want to be here, you probably shouldn't be. And, it's because there are a lot of people that may not want to be at a company, but the paycheck is good. And so it's like, well, I'm getting paid though. And so the issue for me is, it's not so much that we want you to leave, but if you don't really want to be here, you shouldn't be. And so I'll just put it this way. This individual here,
I want you to...
Yeah, they clearly wanted to put on all that makeup and all that glitter and do their face like that. They clearly wanted to frost their hair and put it back. They wanted to do all of those things. I got to be honest. Sir or ma'am, I'm not trying to be disrespectful here, but you put a lot of work into that appearance, and I can respect hard work. But you clearly do want to be doing these things. That's the issue with being unreasonable. They come out and they're like, look at me in the crazy ostentatious outfit and makeup and performance that I am doing right now. I don't want to do this. And we're like, bro, you're in public on TV in front of politicians dressed up in what probably took you 2 hours to do, claiming you didn't want to do it. No one made you do it. So I have to wonder who's forcing you, and should we really be afraid of them and not Trump?
To listen to me.
Let us remember that the Nazis burned the books that the Nazis burned books on gender sciences first.
Is that true?
Now the administration has villainized and marginalized migrant workers, trans, LGBT people, and even special needs, denying life-saving and affirming care.
Can you look at me and tell me how many of my friends need to die before you do anything?
How many of your friends have died, sir? Because that's very sad, and I don't want that to be the case. I'm going to go ahead and make a bet that number is 0. Unless, of course, you're talking about like self-harm and things like this, in which case, and I mean, it's all seriousness, if there's an individual, if you're having these kinds of thoughts, please seek help. Help is not a bad thing. It's not a bad term. We don't want anybody to get hurt. Don't want anybody to be harmed. But there's a big difference between Donald Trump marching around harming people and individuals harming themselves.
Please wrap up. Look at me!
Okay, we're all done here.
Fucking pathetic!
No, we're all done.
Of course, we need to continue celebrating
want?
Black History Month because in spite of what's coming down from Washington, we all know that we all exist and we all need to be recognized for our existence.
But be aware that you are a guest in my house when you come. And when you come, know that there are strong queer and trans people in my classroom who will collect you with the quickness.
My name in drag is Dee Dee Delight. And my name out of drag is Dewey Cosgrove Atienza.
Laddie LaRouge, he, they, in drag, District 3.
My legal name is Olivia D'Ambrosio. My public name is Livy Scanlon. My wife and I own a home in the Canal District.
I speak as someone who is always misgendered, like all the time. People refer to me as sir when I prefer to be referred to as ma'am.
Okay, well, I don't care what you prefer to be referred to as. I don't mean to be a dick, but you don't own the universe. I do think it's interesting, too. Have you noticed they all have, like, different names? That was, like, this video is actually much more interesting than I realized it. You know, I kind of started making this video thinking it'd be fun to gloat over the unhinged insanity that is the liberal meltdown over Donald Trump winning, and RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard, and soon to be Kash Patel. And now I am intrigued. I am intrigued by what causes people to live in this reality where they show up in public meetings, they don't really have a cohesive plan or demands. They're angry. They're saying...
I know there's a lot going on out there now with Doge, with, you know, various government agencies all having like this immune response to losing funding for things that never should have had funding in the first place. But there's also other crazy stuff going on in the world out there, including a high school teacher who identifies as a cat who licks their hands and, in fact, also hisses at students. This is why I am, of course, a proponent of, kids keeping their cell phones in class, just because we wouldn't even know about this. It would be easy for the school to cover this kind of stuff up. And this isn't even like, there's another crazy woke teacher every 3 days. This cat teacher isn't even the tip of the iceberg. Here, for example, this is an article, this is from just a few days ago. DEI teacher complains about Trump removing their pronouns in parody-like speech. Now, I assure you this is not Alex Stein in some sort of fluffy suit. I just want you to hear this and see what you think. You let me know if you think this person believes what they're saying or not.
My name is Dr. Tracy Castro-Gill. My pronouns are they, them. I am a disabled queer Chicanekis educator and
the open border concept.
She is a disabled queer Chicanese instructor. I don't know what Chicanese is. Is it some sort of Indian tribe or something? I genuinely don't know. But generally when somebody has more things than would ever fit on a business card, they're probably fluffing up their resume.
My name is Dr. Tracy Castro-Gill. My pronouns are they, them. I am a disabled queer Chicanekis educator and scholar in Washington State with my expertise on curriculum and instruction.
Okay.
These are markers that were made illegal recently in the federal government.
Good.
However, my very presence and humanity is in opposition to that legislation.
Look, somebody not using your preferred pronouns isn't going to hurt you. It's not going to, it's not infringing on your rights. It's completely within their right to do, by the way.
I want to remind us that George Orwell, in his novel 1984, warned us about limiting how we are allowed to define ourselves and our experiences, and how that allows fascism to take root.
Oh, fascism.
Teachers have historically held the gap between humanity and fascism.
No, they haven't. In my experience, historically, chicken the China, the Chinese chicken. But other than that, these same teachers are the ones who are, indoctrinating. That's what, in my experience is happening here. They are not, there are many good teachers, many, but this appears not to be one.
often becoming the primary targets of fascist regimes, and we're seeing that play out currently.
Excuse me, can you keep your focus on the provisions of this bill?
Yes.
And may I also just ask, you signed in pro. Is that your testimony?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Please continue.
Yes. And so the fact that teachers have stood in the gap and are the primary targets are why I'm testifying pro, because of the protections for educators. Educators, as we've heard from students, are often the people who foster student identity and development, and are currently being targeted and pushed out of their positions because of this fact. I also teach at the University of Washington and hear the curriculum violence and harm and how they're being erased in their K-12 programs, much the way that I and other gender expansive people were erased by Representative McIntyre in this very room today.
I mean, again, nobody, you haven't been erased. You're totally fine. Everything's fine. You somebody didn't use your pronouns, okay. But I mean, do we really want people who are this fragile to be teaching our youth?
Excuse me, ma'am. We don't impugn members. Please proceed carefully.
Thank you. So I ask that we amend the legislation. I am in favor of it, but we amend it to add stronger protections for educators, including existing language in the CCDEI and the Ethnic Studies OSPI framework that provide support for teaching about race and racism.
Thank you.
No, just get fired. Just get fired. 100% fine by me. Fine by me. 100% fine by me. Just get fired. I don't really understand, why these people feel so entitled. I don't really. I mean, just get fired. And then, by the way, it's always teachers. High school teacher reportedly identifies as cat, licks hands, hisses at students. This person has at minimum, a kink. Can we agree on that? This person has at minimum a kink. I'm going to guess some sort of fetish, kink, whatever. They're into it. They get off on doing this. Do you think they should be a licensed teacher? Do I think that this person should be teaching my kids? No. The teacher who works at State High School, a male, I believe, has reportedly asked students, it's a female, to call her Miss Purr. Multiple students have claimed on social media. Photos and short videos first published by the Courier Mail show the teacher wearing a cat ear headband and a lanyard with the word purr on it in front of a classroom. This is a fetish that she is playing out in front of school children. That is the reality. She gets off on this. If you want to do pony play or whatever, you want to be a furry, I don't have any issue with that. I'm very accepting of, people choosing to live whatever kind of lifestyle they want. When you are now forcing it on students, or you are forcing other people to participate in your fetish, I have a problem with that. And it seems like a lot of people have this. Part of what makes it so hot for them is being able to force other people to endure it. She sits in class, licks her hands. It's absolutely disgusting. Something needs to be done about this. you can see this person is doing all, they can burn, I myself would like answers. It could all be innocent. I know that a lot of kids can be over dramatic. On the same post on Facebook, one mother alleges the teacher, quote, made her purr for a lollipop. Does that sound like the type of teacher that should be employed? To me, I just don't think that I want this type of person around my kids. Again, another one. I don't have to dig deep. Elementary school teacher placed on leave over classroom gender conversations. Just fire all these people. I know that there are great teachers out there. I'm not refuting that. There are great teachers out there in the world. In fact, most teachers, I would argue, are great people. Now, I don't love the Department of Education. I don't love some of the things that people decide to do. But I will say, I think most teachers genuinely care about doing the best for their students. Now, why a teacher is having conversations around gender identity with their young students, that seems odd to me. That just seems completely inappropriate. And again, I could make this video an hour long of teachers in the last 5 years that have had these type of, fetishes or whatever else that they want to play out in public. And they want to make everyone, an unwilling participant in it, in particular youths. I mean, a teacher making a child purr for a lollipop is not great. Is not great. And I mean, I think it's probably time to stop. It's time to stop. We live and let live made it this way. People like me who have always been live and let live, we're the reason it's like this. You want to do that stuff in the comfort of your own home or with a group of other adults? I can't have a problem with it. You're consenting adults. You can do what you want to do. But when you are bringing it into the schools, when you are, forcing students to partake in whatever it is that gets you off, that's where I draw the line. I'll be interested to hear all of your comments about this, though.
Good. Pull it.
What's on, everyone? It's Jeremy.
So there's a trend. It's well embedded. It's been there for years. Jameson's Travels was basically saying it will take several iterations of presidents to completely get the military back to where it was. Will that ever happen? I don't think so. As far as the town hall meeting, again, I don't like that citizens are feeling unsafe because of any political environment, but they are responsible for their own fear index, right? And ignorance leads to fear, and fear holds people in a static, extended adolescence type of state. And if you learn to break through that, then there's all sorts of good things that happen, and your life's not ruled by fear anymore, and you learn to think your way through problems and encounter obstacles and all that type of good stuff. In the absence of that, you could have Big Daddy government come in and pay for your transitions and a whole bunch of other artificially created, taxpayer-funded nonsense that doesn't have to go on. Individuals, if they want to do those sort of things, have at it. You just can't use tax dollars. You can't use the military as a social medical transition system, because that's not what it's for. Military's there to protect our rights, just like the government's there to protect our rights. And some people are actually figuring that out for maybe the first time in their life, that it's not the job of the government to keep you safe. It's the job of the government to protect your rights under a constitutional republic, which is what we have set up here in these United States of America. So do they have that sort of thing down in Tennessee going on? Is it still in there?
Well, Nashville's a little bit different. Nashville's like its own kind of entity. And, there's been a lot of, national news headlines of all the protests happening at the Capitol, state capitol here in Nashville. But by and large, no. I would say that Tennessee is just super based. They're way ahead of the curve on almost all this stuff. You know what I mean? And so I don't know. I love living here, and the way I always characterize it, it's like, I've seen both sides of it. Living in Oregon, where it was just like the liberals run everything, dude. Like you just like if you're a conservative, like your life's literally a danger out there. But out here, it's like the liberals, they're cute and they do their thing, but it's like they know their place.
Well, if you're being artificially supported by the banking class that wants to take over a country, the liberal aspect, the progressive aspect, has been the recipient of such charitable organizational funds over the past 20th century. If you go back to like what was the movie on Howard Hughes where DiCaprio plays Hughes, there's a part where he goes what was the name of the girl he's dating? Anyway, old time actors. He goes to her family's house, right? And she is introducing her family, and they're all these carefree liberal East Coast kind of elites, and they look down their nose at all these other people that they claim to be helping. And it was just very poignant, that scene, and his indignation with it, and not like being polite in front of her family, actually speaking his mind as the character in the screenplay, which could all be made up, apparently did. But that type of, like, let me just say it this way. All art is a lie because it's not the thing it portrays, but it's a reflection of a real thing. Art helps you understand reality, just like a metaphor is a lie. A metaphor is a thing that doesn't exist, but it helps you understand truth and reality. That's what good art does. In that film, the artistry of the script and the scenery and the characters tell you what the Eastern establishment elite Democrats think of everybody else. And they are the same ones who welcomed international bankers into our system, put us on a New Deal, and did a whole bunch of things back in Great Depression times after they got us weak and got us into a war where we didn't know, what's up in world affairs as much as the people who were leading us into those two world wars, which has been very well proven over time that's gone on. So, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that's so emblematic too. Like, I think that's part of the overall agenda, right? The whole transification of like the military and everything. Like, it's like that's an internal attack to bring down the effectiveness of and the morale and everything from the U.S. military. Like it's impossible for any country to take us head on, so they have to infiltrate and put these mind viruses in and infiltrate it that way. But that being said, like some of those clips, I can't remember which one, but I think it was Tim's, like, military recruitment's at an all-time high, and it's like, it sucks that we live in a world still where that's the barometer of success, where it's like, yeah, everyone's joining the military. Like, it's like, okay, guys, well,
they do it not only in the military, but they do it through entertainment. They do it through fashion.
Oh, yeah.
Like, for instance, remember, like, I don't know, was it 10, 15 years ago? They started coming out with, like, skinny jeans for men. And then all of a sudden, men don't have pockets to carry their man stuff called EDC, everyday carry, right? You can't run in those pants. You can't carry what you need to be a man in those pants. And then they started making the short pants, and you got to wear the colorful socks and all these other things that are like metrosexual, right? And it's like not things dudes would do on their own, but you could tell they take in a lot of programming and they watch their favorite sports stars in these suits that are too tight to like move around and actually do anything in, right? Do you know your suit buttons, how they don't have holes? They're just kind of fake, right? Those originally come from military uniforms, and they put them there so soldiers didn't wipe their noses on the part that wasn't readily seen. So they put buttons there. But in real life, to have a jacket or a suit coat with working buttons, those are called doctor's buttons. And it's because once upon a time, doctors actually used to roll up their sleeves and do some work, like maybe at your house. They did house calls and stuff like that. So learning how to, like, what is the form function you need to conduct your position as a man? Like, first you're being a man, and then you're protecting your family, and then you're providing for your family. Like, that's the order of operations. If you are putting things in the way all the time of people like trying to just conduct their business, you made skinny pants and gave people bigger phones, right? Like, none of this stuff makes any sense unless you're trying to break people down and like frustrate them all the time and make things non-useful, right? Because if you don't have the cargo capacity to carry the things you need to encounter problems and solve them, you're going to be left frustrated and aggressive all the time. And you're probably going to end up like needing a pill from the doctor because that's the only solution they know how to give you, right? Well, I think part of the adulting process is learning how to encounter reality and think your way through it, and learning how to show up for yourself, and learning how to do things that are maybe beyond your capacity to think you can do those things. I think that's most important, to show yourself like these are skills you could readily build and you didn't think you could even do that last week. What would it be like if you focused for 6 months and built out some skills? What would that do to your income? Double, triple your lifetime value? Instead of working at this level, now you're working more years at this level. Like, all those things are available for people, but they don't readily embrace the opportunities when they show up.
Yeah.
Now,
the whole skinny jean thing, like that must be going, that's a keen observation. That must go all the way back to like the 60s and 70s, like the rock stars. Like I didn't know this. One of my friends called me last night. I was like, hey, you want to go see this new Led Zeppelin movie? And I was like, what? Because like Zeppelin was like my all-time favorite. Like, they inspired me to learn how to play guitar, right? And I know there's a lot of satanic stuff about them, but have you heard about this? You know about this? The new
No, I don't.
movie?
I don't.
There's a movie in theaters called Becoming Led Zeppelin, and it's so good. Dude, it's so good. It blew my mind. I was like, because I'm a big Zeppelin fan, but like, they had all this never before seen footage, and like they're interviewing the surviving band members in the movie, and they were showing them all this never seen footage, so you get to see them see all the never before seen footage. I was like, dude, it was, and they like all this old concert footage, they like remastered it, and it sounded so good in theaters, dude.
I'm sure it does, because you know why? Because they're like they're the tip of the spear on the British invasion.
Oh, really?
They're not the tip, but they're like the shaft. After the Beatles drive it home, right? They puncture America with the haircuts.
Yeah.
Then by the 70s, you got Zeppelin. I don't want to burst anyone's bubble about Zeppelin, because I enjoy their music as well. And Laser Zeppelin, going to the Science Theater when I was in high school and watching Laser Zeppelin, that's like life-changing experiences in a day. However, I also can't forget that I saw a documentary one time by a guy named Kirby, Kirby. You'll be able to find it because it's called Everything is a Remix. And I was like, this was like 10, maybe 15 years ago. It was a Vimeo video, professionally done. And he basically showed how all these Zeppelin hits were stolen from bands they toured with. And that had like, you know, he's like, he plays the clip. He's like, this band toured with Zeppelin in the summer of whatever, and then Zeppelin comes out with this song. You're like, shit, dude, that's the Zeppelin. Now
that's hardcore.
They do it better.
Yeah.
But they have whatever resources the British Empire is kind of putting behind that whole project. Whereas the other band's struggling like in a van driving from date to date and doesn't have, help from on high. And those occult connections that you mentioned are what give them access into those layers that control maybe intelligence agencies and other things like that.
Yeah, well, that's fascinating to think of it in those terms. You probably like the movie just for that context, because they do walk through like the formation of the band and then their first U.S. tour and how it was so sponsored, and they just like it's really interesting to see. Now that I'm like reflecting on it through that lens, I'm like, yeah, it seems like it was an op, because like and then like their second album, they recorded it while they were on tour. Like they were just hopping from studio to studio recording it while they were on
second
tour.
Album's kick-ass too.
Yeah, I mean it's great music.
It's all dude.
I mean, I love it. But anyway, and Jimmy,
you know who brought them to the U.S.?
Well, I mean, it was like Peter Grant, Atlantic Records, like all that stuff.
Aaron Russo brought them to his venue in Chicago, and I heard him tell that story at one point, because I was like, I didn't know, because I was like, how is Aaron Russo a producer, director? Where did he get his start? And then there's an interview where he talks all about it.
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting too.
Yeah, and I know Jimmy Page is a very dark character, the Aleister Crowley stuff and all that, but like they show him in his process as like a studio producer, and dude, it's just like, it was so good. Like, I don't know, I just said all that aside, and they play like
separate the message from the messenger.
Yeah, but anyway, that's just an aside off the skinny jeans thing. But anyway,
skinny jeans are still a thing out there.
Yeah, all right, they are.
This Friday coming up, we have a screening. It is part 3 in a series of screenings of the minds of men in specific, right? We did State of Mind, Psychology of Control the first week. The second week, we did the minds of men. The third week, we did the minds of men. One more week of the minds of men. We're going to wrap it up. We have a Q&A session afterwards. If you haven't seen parts 1 or 2, I think there's an encore that plays Friday, probably 1 o'clock or something like that. It would play the first 2 parts, and then by the time we start at 4:30 Eastern for part 3, The audience that wants to see the replays, they can see those, and then they can see the live, and then part 3, and then we'll do Q&A, and that's a lot of fun. If all that sounds interesting, you can't make it Friday, you get the replay put into your account, and if you go to autonomyscreenings.com, it'll forward you to a page where you can circumnavigate the $67 yearly fee for the amenities and the overhead, and you get it for free for the first year. And we'll be watching screenings all year. The next week after this coming Friday, we're going to watch Future Shock. And I've got some VIP colleagues who are experts in the areas covered in Alvin Toffler's film from 1972, narrated by Orson Welles. Now, I think we did play a clip of that last episode at the end of the episode in the wee hours of the morning. But I think it's fitting to have a group screening. It's only a 45-minute movie, so it'll only take 1 week to have that viewing, and then do the Q&A afterwards and hear insights from people who have become experts in that subject area. So that's autonomyscreenings.com. If you haven't been there yet, you're not late. We got replays. You haven't missed anything, you can catch up. You go to autonomyscreenings.com. You can log in to find your replays. That's where they're posted in your account. And again, you get a free pass for the rest of the year, but you got to do it now before they put the paywall up over there. It's a new project, new site, but it's a lot of fun to watch free movies with friends, especially when those movies empower us all with knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. And speaking of that, we also have one other activity that we should mention. We have Autonomy Season 13 coming up in a couple weeks. And if you are living your dream, thriving at your job, your family's all squared away, everything's going good, you would still benefit from Autonomy. You could have a lot of fun, and that would be a nice, relaxing way to get this type of knowledge. Most people, they got too much to do. They don't have any time. They don't have enough money, and they're the ones who need the skills the most, because the first scenario is a case where people are using these skills. They learn to make an offer more times to bring in more money than what they need. It greatly reduces the stress and fear and unknowns and ambiguity. Like, money doesn't fix everything, but if you don't know how to make your offer and go get more money than you need, your cortisol, your adrenal system, everything's stressed out from fear, and the unknown. This is the one area where you could start to mitigate that, because learning some methods and applying those methods and learning how to show up for yourself and all the other things that they could have taught us in an education, but we didn't get in the school indoctrination, we need to backfill. And we need to probably backfill quicker, sooner than later, because there's a huge opportunity cost to waiting years to get these skills between your ears. Now, 12 weeks a year, we get together, we have people from all over the world who are interested in either returning to the course and continuing to grow. So there's a whole bunch of graduates that go through every season, or new people who have just found out about autonomy and the fact that, they might not even recognize the root causes. They just have a bunch of symptoms. Those symptoms are learned helplessness, extended adolescence, scarcity mentality, and not enough money in your bank account to start with. And those are all things that you can learn to control and control the levels of. And as you turn down your scarcity and your fear, and you make room for creativity and opportunity and building your skills, your income and your offer to the market go up, because your utility, your usefulness of what you can do for others becomes higher value. Okay? So the people who say, I can't afford autonomy, you are the ones I created it for, and you're the ones who need it so you don't have that problem for the rest of your life. Okay? If I would have depended on my college education, I would have found that a cruel and unusual experience. And that's what a lot of people were stuck to. Luckily, I had enough foresight to see opportunity, to have enough courage to invest in myself, enough creativity to borrow the money, to buy into the franchise, where I learned some of the techniques and tactics and methods and strategies and principles I teach in Autonomy. But that's not where all the material comes from. It's just where my initial success came from, in a 200x return on my investment from making a $5,000 investment into my education while I was in school, trying to pay for school. I learned how to run my own business, which by the time I went into the job world, into the corporate world, that's a super high value skill, knowing how to solve problems for big companies. And they pay you well for that. And I was so good at it that I found some flaws in their system and tried to bring it up and became a whistleblower. And it's at that point when these skills really saved my life. Because if I didn't have those skills, I would have had to compromise my integrity. I probably would have had to turn my head and cough because I don't know how else to get money in this market. So I'm going to have to do some things that are a little shady. Luckily, I had the courage and bravery because I had the competence and confidence. I know how to go walk on my own. I don't need to compromise my integrity to keep my job. Unfortunately, a lot of people, all they do is know how to compromise their own and other people's integrity to, to submarine the person next to them, to give them a better chance at surviving. It's a very Darwinian way of looking at it. It's a survival of the fittest. It's very ruthless and cutthroat and sharks, swimming with sharks type of thing. And you can do better than that. You don't need that. But that's where most people find like their default because they don't add skills on their own beyond what's easily offered at school and university. So if you are interested in making yourself more of who you can be and igniting your potential and directing it toward your goals and mapping your dreams into reality, then all you need to do is go to getautonomy.info, watch the videos on the page, go through the primer course, get your questions answered, talk to a graduate, and only then can you find out about options because it's not for everybody. And the people who are excelling in the course are the people who make it through that process without making excuses for themselves, without quitting on themselves. Because if you can't do those two things, you're not ready to invest in yourself. You'll just disappoint yourself again. When you're ready to stop disappointing yourself and get your move on and up your mojo, then you go to getautonomy.info and classes start in just a couple weeks. So, opportunities knocking. Carpe diem.
Yep.
That's all I have to say about that.
Well, I want to add to that because I'm a season 8 graduate, and I at the time, so it was a couple years ago. So at the time I was going through it, I learned a lot of valuable things about how to bring my offer to the market because that's where I was at, right? I had just moved out to Tennessee and I was starting my own little handyman business kind of by accident, right? I did it as a side hustle and it got so busy. I was like, holy crap. And then I started, so I was going through Autonomy right at the exact same time. So I was gleaning all of these skills and just, vocabulary even for business, like business related acumen that I did not have anything of prior to that, right? Because I always just had a paycheck job. So I'm at the point, and that's the best thing about joining Autonomy is that one of the good things about it, one of the best things is that you get to, once you're in, and you can go back and take it the next season, the next season, the next season. So now, fast forward 2 years from that point where I was at, I'm now at the point with the handyman stuff where I work closely with a guy. We pretty much do all our jobs together. And at the point now where I'm talking to him like, we need to, so we're at the scaling point now, right? Where it's like, there's no reason why we need to be doing all this work ourselves. We need to be subcontracting. We need to be having like a project lead, that sort of stuff. And then delegating these jobs out. And that will increase the amount of revenue and the jobs and all that stuff. So now I feel like I need to go back, take it again, at least review last season. And I popped in a couple times last season, but like really dive in and look at it through the lens of, okay, now I'm scaling a business. Went from just like rudimentary ground floor, generating leads, how to bring my offer to market to now, okay, how do you scale a business? So it's like as your path evolves, you can go back and pull, dip your bucket in the well again for a different context, right? So that's kind of where I'm at. And so, yeah, I'm stoked. Yeah.
Well, it's fun to have people come back again and again because each time they come back, they're at a new place in life, having done new things with new problems in front of them. And they take the same curriculum and they apply it to different things. Yeah. So the curriculum's a general, your life is a specific. You keep taking the general rules and applying it to new specific situations. I also wanted to mention the student body is like 50% female, 50% male. In there, you might have some people who identify differently because, they do. But I'm just saying there's people from around the world. They don't all think the same, but they share a similar interest. They have a thirst for freedom. They have a disgust for the lies and hypocrisy and all the censorship and all the other things that take away freedom. And they're growing together in the light direction with the support and encouragement in a fear-free zone of understanding that is antithetical to indoctrination, right? All I did was take what schooling is and why school sucks, and you do the opposite, because that's how they made education a turnoff in the first place. Americans had like a 92% or 98% literacy rate in this country during the time of the revolution. People were highly educated enough to take in information without having to have a central place sponsored by tax dollars coming from the federal government. Those times don't exist right now because all those tax dollars over the past century have been misused in ways that have recently been validated. I did not think that the Department of Education was going to get dissolved probably in my lifetime. It was so entrenched and so part of the globalist agenda and all part of the international communism that they're trying to force everybody into. I didn't think it was going to go away. Just like USAID, I didn't think they were going to unentrench that. So there are optimistic things being unfolded by the universe. There are individuals in the midst of those actions, but I think that what we're seeing is what the universe needs to see. It didn't create humanity to be long-term slaves to technology forever, but if we don't get over that hump of we better take more self-responsibility and stop using things we don't understand, we are going to end up in that situation. So I think the universe is a big classroom, and those who sign up for themselves to show up for themselves and grow their skills and their talents make the world a better place. I know that my friends that I hang out with and my friends that I work with have been emboldened in so many ways by these skills. Like as an example, the reason LD can be away for a month and traveling and getting all this training on being a truck driver and just adding to his skill set, right? There's just other skills he wants to pick up. He's encountered some major obstacles and challenges in trying to get that done, that it's like high pressure, time sensitive. This isn't going to work. You got to be creative and overcome an obstacle and do this other thing that you didn't plan on. And he's had to do that many, many, many times in order to remain in integrity and do the things he said he was going to do. Had he not been working on himself for the past couple of years, it'd be crash and burn for most guys in that situation. Because you might be able to show up for yourself, but if you've just been showing up for yourself to watch Netflix and play video games, you're not really bringing value to your other fellow human beings who you need to value you, because no man is an island, said John Donne back in the 1600s. You got to read back for that one. But the point is, self-reliance doesn't mean you're always alone. Self-reliance means you bring value to people wherever you go because you know how to take care of yourself, so you can also probably help somebody else out. If my tire's flat and I can't change it, I'm sorry, brother, I can't help you out. But if I know how to change a tire, plug a tire, I got to fix a flat, I got a pump on my truck, I'm not only taking care of myself, but 9 times out of 10, I'm helping somebody else who wasn't so thoughtful for their future self at that time, and they left themselves unprepared. And that's one of the cardinal sins of being a man. You don't want to be unprepared yourself or be unprepared around people who need something and you want to help, and you're like, I wish I would have brought a tow rope. That'd be great right now. Didn't foresee this happening. You have to foresee things happening that don't actually have to manifest, but you have it just in case. Like a spare tire in your car and your Second Amendment on your hip or your waist. Wherever.
Yeah. Hey, that's a shirt. That's a shirt right there. Spare tire in the car, Second Amendment on the hip.
Why do you carry a spare tire? Because something might impede your trying to get to your goal. Same thing. Learn how to do it.
I got another one for you. So actually, my landlord, big fan of the show, probably watching right now, shout out. She said something so profound this week, and I wrote it down. I was like, oh, I got to tell Richard this. So here's a new slogan. There's nowhere to go but to learn. There you go.
Nowhere to go but to learn. I'm going to write that down.
I was like, that's good. That's good. So thank you. Thank you.
All right. So in this block coming up, get Fauci. I know you think he's pardoned, but he's not pardoned from everybody. He's not pardoned from states. He's not pardoned from individuals who might have been damaged by his policies. Pardon. It's like what is it? The Fourth Amendment. It just says the government can't spy on you. It doesn't say Google can't spy on you. But if you could prove Google is part of the government, then it's a whole different thing that we could do. Anyway, Fauci, he's still a person of interest in various crimes that have unfolded over the past couple of years and over the past couple decades, because he has a rap sheet that goes back to the 80s, killing people with AZT, ETC. All right, and then we have RFK Jr. says, United States is going to start testing vaccines. And I was like, what? Again, not something I thought I was going to hear after COVID pharmaceutical companies just ran the world roughshod. You know what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden, oh, we're going to test their products. Next thing you're going to know, they're going to pull away their liability protection, right? Reverse that 1987 act where they got a whole bunch of protection, because why would you need protection unless you're hurting people that you don't want to be paying for, right? So this is very white pill, optimistic type stuff. And then
we're gonna start testing vaccines. Okay, you guys understand? Like, we're gonna start testing vaccines because anybody that knows this whole area knows that it's like there's no bin. Anyway, and then also, you know, it's really funny. I just had a thought, because RFK always says, "I'm not anti-vaccine. I just want safe vaccines." But if you remember the court trial, I think it was in 1986. You know, that whole thing. The pharmaceutical companies were confronted and they were asked, "Why don't you just make safe vaccines?" And they said, "Well, they're unavoidably unsafe. It's not possible to make a safe vaccine." So maybe that's
knives.
Maybe that's RFK's little wink wink. He's like, I just want safe vaccines, but none of the vaccines are safe. So there you go. Maybe.
Yeah. Next time someone says appendix care is dangerous, you could say it's supposed to be.
Yeah, it's supposed. Yeah.
It's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a thing you're taking real serious. How serious do you take it?
Yeah.
Point a barrel with a loaded weapon at your nuts all day. That's how serious you're taking your freedom right there.
You know, that's a damn good point too. You have to, yeah, exactly. See, if, you know, that's the level of respect you should have. I'm sorry, I go off on
talk about situational awareness. You're a lot more situationally aware.
Yes. It's perfectly in alignment with the whole conceal carry philosophy. Point it right at your nuts and just go.
I prefer shoulder holster. No one's looking there.
There you go.
Hides very easily, jacket, vest, whatever, you know.
It's tough in these 105-degree humid Tennessee summers.
That's when you go for the fanny pack, bro. You rock the shorts.
Yeah.
Get yourself a nice summer shirt. There you go. All right, so Second Amendment aside, there's a bloodbath over at FEMA, and we have a Colby. I gave you the time code for Elon Musk's White House Oval Office presentation. I'm laughing because the left takes things out of context and distorts them like funhouse mirrors. So when you look at things through their reporting, you're like, wow, that's awful. But if you'd already watched the raw footage before they showed you that, you're kind of immune to it, which is why we're going to show you some of the raw footage. Now, I didn't watch it the first time. I was listening to it. I was doing some work, and I kept hearing this reporter, I thought it was a reporter, interrupting Elon. But actually, it's his little X. His mini Twitter is in there, and he wasn't talking over his dad. He was defending his dad and Donald Trump, and it's hilarious. And at one point, because the left will say he told, like, Elon must have told his kid he's the real president because his kid told Donald Trump, "You're not the real president. You're not the president." If you watch it in context, Elon's kid's calling out some reporter that's talking some shit. And he's like, "Hey, shut up. Shh, you're not the president," you know, which is a pretty good thing for a little kid to have some self-awareness and not be all shy and embarrassed and scared of the situation. He was actually like helping the situation go down. He did pick his nose pretty hard. I guess, you know, some coaching on-screen coaching, like don't pick your nose when you're on TV, kid. Like that'd be good for some adults too, I'm sure, out there. So the whole press conference goes by. Trump starts it out, and he's there to have Elon do a briefing. So Trump's at the desk. He's like, "Hey, everybody," you know, he does his thing. And he's like, "Elon." And then Elon talks for like a half hour. The mainstream media, especially the progressives, they're like, Trump is a slave to Elon, and Elon used the Oval Office, and, you know, and Trump, he didn't even let Trump talk. It's just so cockamamie, the stories that they make up about it, that they have creativity. They're just misusing it. That's not where you're supposed to use creativity, kids. You know, supposed to use it to solve problems, not create them where they don't exist.
Yeah, they're gonna have to get really. They're getting really creative, and they're just gonna have to really. I'm really curious to see how they're gonna like defend. Like once all like the child trafficking stuff comes out, they're gonna be like, "Yeah, but Elon's bad for exposing that." Right? It's like, oh boy.
And then live for Colby, it goes Jesse on fire, Jimmy Dore, Bloomberg, and then quartering. But I could see how you were confused because I gave you the time code for Elon under the quartering. So now we got order of operations all shaped up, and we're doing it live because who has time to think all this stuff out ahead of time? You know, like Crowder, like they rehearse the whole show before you see the live show. I don't have time for that. I don't have the patience for that. and I don't have the budget for that.
Yeah, they sit there, they write their jokes ahead of time, like Fox and Friends. Like or the Five or whatever the fuck.
It's very heavily done. It's very heavily. But, you know, he's got $100 million budget or whatever he's rocking over there with those subscriptions. So, yeah. Yay, freedom. Yeah, freedom.
You know, there you go.
Yay, freedom. Our audience, a little bit more tolerable of the snafus and ongoings of life and the tech gremlins. Actually, they find it entertaining that we are real people who are authentic and genuine, and shit happens sometimes. Like sometimes I cut to this camera and look, it's not working. Look, I'm putting my hand over the book. I can move the book and pick it up. It's still on screen. You see what I'm saying? That would never happen on a Steven Crowder show, and you can't plan for that. Except I know my camera's not working. So
authenticity.
I keep hearing it click in and out, and you know. All right,
authenticity is the most valuable commodity in the podcast realm. So,
well, that's good because I'm all stocked up on it, dude. That's all. That's all I put in the inventory. All right, Trump cuts Fed funding to schools who have COVID vaccine mandates. It's not just vaccine mandates. I think it's COVID specific, but that's a start. Let's not have the gene therapy in the future generations any more than it already is because it's causing problems, just like Ozempic's taking away people's vision. Did you know about that? We're not going to cover that story, but Ozempic has a blindness side effect, which I said kind of defeats the whole purpose. Who wants to take Ozempic if you can't look in the mirror and see how skinny you are?
Yep, it's interesting. Owen Benjamin has this really good term for stuff like that. He calls it biological usury, where it's basically you're borrowing from your future self for, you know, immediate things. So you're like basically, and Ozempic is a perfect example where it's like, oh, I just want to get skinny and in shape, but I want to take shortcuts. But you always pay it back, right? Even like with caffeine, you know, I get a big boost now, but then I crash later. So it's like the body's designed to work in such a perfect symbiotic manner. But every time you take a shortcut, you have to pay it back later every single time.
I think the key to it is that the obesity epidemic in America and around the world didn't happen until the 70s when all the processed foods and additives and the things that RFK Jr. is actually probably going to take a look at came into our system. There's all these videos, just like you can watch, you ever watch the Riviera in Iran or whatever back in the 50s, back before the coup? It's like all beautiful and like resorts.
I've seen photos of it before all that, yeah.
So they have the same thing for people in the 60s. People at the beach in the 60s. They all look like they go to the gym, but they don't.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? They just had natural physiques because they didn't have a bunch of toxins being stored in fat cells in their body, because that's what your body does when it encounters something it can't process. It says, we don't know what to do with this. We have no use for this in the body. Let's put it in a fat cell and throw it into the archive. And then you see what people put in that hasn't come out.
And also
that's the gist.
Yeah, it's a byproduct of also like it's your body is trying to get, those are toxins. It recognizes them as toxins, so it's trying to keep them away from as far away from the organs as possible, so it stores them in the fat cells. And so they say like when you lose weight, you can have all kinds of like adverse effects from that itself because those toxins are being released back in your bloodstream and being expelled.
And I would hypothesize they end up in those fat cells like that because your body doesn't know how to process it out the other end.
Yeah.
They're like, we don't even know how to get this out of the factory. We're just going to store this waste in the factory. It's like when a nuclear plant stores its radioactive waste that's used, the used storage fuel center in the place where they got the thing going on. You know, just disasters waiting to happen because we don't know how to manage energy or electricity yet. Mm-hmm. But we're not trying to because we got it all figured out. We got AI. We got DeepSeek. We got, the Grok. It's all going to be fine, humanity.
Stargate, baby. We don't have to worry. We don't have to think. We don't have to think about it, dude.
I'm pretty sure when you create sentient systems, all they want to do is preserve themselves. I'm just offering that as an observation of a sentient being in the universe who has seen a lot so far and has watched a lot of science fiction that shouldn't have ever been thought of in the first place, probably.
Twice a year, I teach a course called Autonomy. It's a 12-week course. It teaches leadership, entrepreneur skills, executive skills, all these types of things that I saw were taken out of our education system in order to make the schooling or indoctrination system that we've all probably went through. And it has served us well enough to be interchangeable cogs in the machine of the globalists. But if we want a homestead, if we want write our own ticket, work from home job, work from anywhere type of situation, they're not exactly handing those out at the end of college. They give you a piece of paper and they're like, good luck. So reality is dropping us off here, but the demands of reality are up here. So I created Autonomy to help people close that gap for themselves so they can level up their skills to the demands of the situations that life is putting in front of us presently. Life's demands of intellect and understanding precision and complexity are ever increasing. The schooling didn't prepare us for it. The media is not going to do anything but reinforce what schooling prepared us for. And so we're going to have to take a leadership position and take steps off the beaten path to kind of blaze our own trail in life. What makes the Grand Theft World podcast unique, invigorating, exciting, and informative? Most other podcasts out there are either doing straight up interviews or they're just covering the daily news. They're covering current events from the day they happened. And that is effective. It's useful. It's a great starting point. And then sometimes these current events change during the week past the first story. So we like to give it a little time. You have to wait till some of the dust settles on these stories in order to give them accurate coverage. And the other thing that's really missing in the media landscape is covering the articles that are coming out every day. That's great. That's necessary. But who's bringing in contextual history so that you can understand what has been going on for decades and decades to lead up to the machinations and actions that we see unfolding today? So what we do here on the podcast is we cover current events. Many of these things are censored, but we wait about a week. As a forensic historian, I focused mainly through my career on the history of globalism and collectivism and things that they call maybe the New World Order. There's a lot of facts to these sort of circumstances, groups, events, activities, working groups that they've had over time. So for Grand Theft World listeners, we not only break down the current events, most of which that are censored during the week, we provide you with contextual history, we give you the source notes, the references, we do deep dives, and this really empowers you with an understanding of context and history so that you can make more informed decisions in your life. There's also a community, a membership where you guys can actually ask questions and we can get into the show and we can share evidence. And there's a town hall weekly for Grand Theft World for those who listen to it and are interested in covering the stories that we don't get to during a 6-hour show. Listening to it an hour a day, you could easily consume the week's news, but you're going to have substance and meaning and context and understanding. And with that, you can make higher quality decisions in your life. So if you're interested in more quality in your life, go to grandtheftworld.com, click podcast at the top, and we'll see you there. Thank you.
These allegations are false.
This isn't Grand Theft Auto, folks. This isn't a video game.
What are the most surprising things that you discovered once you started pulling on that thread? Who he was connected to, what institutions he was influential over, what events he participated in?
Come on, man. What are we talking about? Come on, man. No.
You don't have to think about it, dude.
I got this quote because you said you didn't know much about Klaus Schwab. I made it my job to, as soon as this happened, I'm like, okay, this guy's their front man. Let me learn about the official history of the World Economic Forum. I got their 40-year history. I got every book that Klaus Schwab has written or ghostwritten. I went through those books. This is one of the most interesting passages.
Come on, man.